Welcome back to The Lift, where we dig into how modern revenue teams move faster and work smarter. Today, I'm excited to be joined by Matt Rodriguez, the VP of RevOps at Yugabyte, a company offering enterprise-grade distributed SQL databases. At Yugabyte, he's driving alignment across sales, marketing, and customer success while navigating product-led growth, multi-segment GTM, and complex enterprise deal cycles. Today, I'm joined by James MacArthur, VP of Product Advocacy at New. We're excited to get into it, Matt. Welcome to The Lift.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Let's start by setting the stage with your role as VP of RevOps at Yugabyte. What does your day-to-day look like, and how is RevOps structured inside the company?
This is a really interesting question. Thinking about RevOps specifically, it's different for every business. I was in consulting previously before joining Yugabyte. My idea of what RevOps would be internally was a lot different than what it ended up being. At Yugabyte specifically, we focus a lot on forecasting. We focus a lot on integrations and systems. Every single day, we're working with account executives and our reps and our sales leaders to adjust the forecast, to make sure things are correct, also to work with people on deals, to push things forward, unlocking a million things related to deals. I was surprised when I joined here that it would be less systems focused and more strategic, tactical focused on individual deals. And then the systems are just a thing that supports it. That was really the thing that every single day I'm working in Google spreadsheets, I'm working in reporting, I'm working with a lot of things like that. It's not integrations like in consulting where you're saying, oh, I'm going to connect Gong to Salesforce. It's more like everything else that supports that.
Your background spans pricing, open source, and enterprise GTM. How has that shaped your approach to pricing strategy at Yugabyte?
Yeah, especially with Yugabyte and vCPU cores and how we actually price things. It's a funny question. We're constantly looking over how we price things and how easy it is to price things inside of Salesforce and just in general to get quotes standardized across the business. I think that's one of the biggest things for us is each deal is different. And so having standard rules are things that did not exist before I joined Yugabyte. We did a good job at trying to get similar deals over the line. And so I can't go into super crazy specifics on a podcast, for instance, but two companies, company A, company B, would have a very similar sales cycle, very similar use case, and they would be priced completely different. And that was one of the things where we would ask, why is this slightly more, slightly less expensive for the customer? How can we standardize that for our AEs? Because some AEs were going to the table and offering solutions and pricing that was just like super wild and off the cuff and not super standard. So
And
yeah, that's been a tough one. It's been a really tough one.
we see that a lot with clients where they're coming in and it's the Wild West for every single one. How are you managing that inherent complexity? How do you standardize against that?
The rules of how you price need to be adopted by everyone. That is the biggest issue I've seen in general. I was an AE for a while, and the entire time I've been in operations, it's less so about telling everybody this is what they need to do because it's their job, and it's more so making it easy for them to do the right thing. When I joined Yugabyte, that is something that we've been focusing on basically from the beginning. Whether it's systems or a Google spreadsheet or something where everybody just agrees and handshakes and says, these are the rules for pricing, these are the rules for everything that we're going to do, whether they all follow, that's really the hard part.
That makes sense because you end up getting into these negotiations and the client will come in and you'll be like, here's my pricing. And they're like, I don't care. So thinking about that, it's the need to be flexible and change frequently is probably something you're feeling pretty heavily. What's that feel like? How are you using tools to make that simpler?
We recently revamped our entire contract structure. I get excited to talk about this stuff, and I can talk your ear off at it a million miles an hour. We ended up starting from ground zero. Before I joined, I remember having calls with the team, and I would say things like, okay, what are we using for e-signature? That's how far back we go. We had a plan to completely change our e-signature strategy and use DocuSign. And then that flows into order management. So now it's our billing and pricing team and our analysts who basically are our deal desk. They need standardization about the order. because the input from the reps, we've even talked about with the pricing piece, the input is completely different. So we start all the way from the beginning. It's DocuSign or an e-signature tool. And then how does that flow into how we're setting up POCs and how we're setting up billing and how we're setting up all of that? All of it has been the focus, and from the very beginning. So it's literally step one, it's e-signature, and then going to the next one. Each one of those steps actually has taken a lot longer time than I would personally be comfortable with. In consulting too, I think the thing that I learned was like that sense of urgency where you're on a time clock. You can take how long things need to take, but also know because they're paying for it. So I was operating under that lens and I was like, okay, we need to move really quickly. But then the team is like essentially slowing me down accidentally because they're like, hey, there's these 5 or 6 other threads we got to dig into. E-signature doesn't just affect what we're doing here with pricing and billing. It also affects HR. It also affects everything else. In RevOps, now I'm getting my fingers in every single department, security, everything, because all these things align and all these things matter. The security pieces for like billing and the orders and everything like that. Now it's okay if we do this. Now we also have to adjust our T's and C's. Now we have to adjust everything else. That's been a really interesting journey, to be honest with you. It's fun. It's actually, I would say, easier than some of the consulting stuff. It's easier because it's slower and it's more strategic for sure. And you can sit and think about the solutions, but harder in the sense that like the anxiety that I personally have as probably the world's most anxious person, I really need to get shit done fast. Sometimes the fast isn't a thing that's even on the table for the equation.
That's one of the interesting things when we talk to folks is because everyone's trying to solve, and I've said this a lot, it's like everything everywhere all at once. Everyone is trying to waterfall everything all the time. And the moving slower so you can go faster is something that is really becoming more prevalent. How are you structuring that now that you've slowed everything down and we're moving into this? How are you structuring evaluations? How are you structuring which tools come first, where you're moving? What is your thought process there? How are you structuring?
If I think about this for a second, I would say the way that we think about speed and what's a priority tends to be dictated by an immediate need. And I say this more so because if you slow everything down just to open up your capacity, then when you notice something needs to be accelerated, you have a ton of capacity in your bank where you can just assign all this resources and all this time to accelerate something. An example is when I joined, I was like, oh, we got to fix top of funnel and forms. We got to fix billing. We got to fix everything, right? And the urgency was totally there. And then I realized I actually have to save my energy and save my time and save my team's time and then waddle along with things. And then once it really shows pain, then we just go, oh, wait, all of that time that we have, put all of your resources into this one thing and be really specific and get this one thing right. And then move on to the next one.
I love talking about that point, which how you prioritize things within the org, because it's something that anyone who's been an ops or systems leader at a small, fast growing company will feel this in your soul. I have a 3-step prioritization, which is who's it important to? If it's important to an individual, that's the lowest priority. If it's important to a team, second priority. Important to the company, that's going to be the highest priority from a different thing. Obviously, you have some things that'll be on fire, some things, actually everything's on fire, so it's fine.
Another part of that equation is the person who's making the request. It's the individual, then the department, and then the use case, I think, because there have been some requests that have come from our co-founders where initially I don't understand. But fairly new at the company, 6 months, they ask for something. And initially they're like, hey, this is a problem. We need to fix this. If I take a step back and I think about what the actual problem is, it starts to unveil itself as something entirely different than what they're saying. You're translating the request. I think just naturally, if it comes from co-founders or our executive team, there is usually context there that I need, and then we'll talk about it. But it almost always is pretty important, high up on the priority list and not unreasonable. but then it goes down to the departments. And if finance asks for something, that's like version 2, because that's how we report all of our stuff. That's how we report to the board. That's how we report to everybody. One below that's maybe sales leadership. And it's okay. Sales leadership has a requirement. Great. Below that is the AEs. But the funniest part is the AEs are the loudest.
When you run into an AE problem, it's going to be the most persistent and annoying problem you have that
It is.
day. Every time.
Every time, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
We had one deal that was going to close, and we ended up like having the AE had 3 questions for me about everything in the process. We were in negotiation and they were asking me, how do we handle this thing? How do we handle this thing? How do we handle this thing? I'm not going to tell you how to do your thing. But this might not be in negotiation if we're having these.
Yeah, that's funny. That's also the state of forecasting too, especially because you guys are new and CPQ and all that. The forecasting piece is funny when you bring up the AE piece. If your deal is forecastable, you should reasonably be able to say that what's in pipeline and the dollar value is correct. We tend to like really focus on the forecast status. We have a custom forecast status that we go off of, the rep defined or like leadership defined forecast status. I've found that the more precise we are on the dollar value, the more likely it is that the deal is going to close. The precise, like pinpoint accuracy of that dollar value does dictate how far along we are in that deal. And I do really believe that the way that we're pricing things right now, and obviously that's going to change very soon, but the way that we're pricing things right now and our lack of really fundamental, CPQ, which we're going through the process of right now, I think that actually does slow down deals significantly because the rep can't be confident about what they're proposing. It's really wild. It's really interesting.
Pricing is one of those things that it builds, when pricing is simple, it builds rep confidence.
If you would have asked me that same question a year ago, I probably would have said, this is fluff. I don't agree. If a rep knows that this is our pricing structure, these are the discounts I have available to me immediately, this is what I'm going to the table with, I'm confident in this $500,000, $600,000 price. If a rep goes into the deal and into the proposal knowing that's codified or that is as good as he or she can get, I think that actually will help a lot. And it builds confidence for everybody with forecasting. It builds confidence with the rep saying when they're forecasting their deal and calling their commits, they're saying, yes, this is 500K. Not, oh, it might be 450, it might be 600, because things go up and down as you negotiate. Rather than them saying that it's a 200K swing, it's pinpoint. We've gotten better with that since I've joined. Probably, honestly, no help from me. It's just been a pain point where people are like, this is terrible, we got to fix it. And we put together systems and things to address it. That's a fun one.
It's interesting because what we're seeing, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this, every company wants to experiment with pricing and make constant changes, but every rep wants nothing to change ever.
Yes. They don't even want their laptop to change. They don't want anything to change. So I agree with that. I think the better middle ground for it is for your core product, you do not want that to change. For the core product offering, you do not want your price to flip-flop and go up and down a lot. You don't, because it's your core product offering. But for the ancillary things or the things that are maybe less, I don't want to say less sticky, less core, less common, I think you have a lot more flexibility to play with those because it's not your 80% of your deals. That's probably where the rep pain is coming from. It's like the thing that I'm selling the most, widget A, like our Big Mac basically of what we offer, needs to be the same price every single time. But the fries or whatever else, the other stuff, the things that still bring in a lot of revenue and are like probably loss leaders for people, those things can be adjusted.
It's like what we've been talking about in our Lizards of Ops group a lot.
Yep.
Which is just make it easy, make it simple. I've always found that the best run programs were the ones where people didn't try to do too much.
I've made that mistake a lot. You reach for the stars, honestly. You try to do all of the things and you get excited, you stay up late because it's an integration or something new, it's a new process. I have recently, and Anybody who knows me, who hears me say this is going to gasp audibly, but I have recently brought some stuff back into Google Sheets. I seriously, like forecast reporting, bringing in billing systems, everything else, like connecting all of it. I've recently had to bring that into Google Sheets and then use G connector to underlying data, like source the formulas and everything else. I've revamped my thoughts on Google Sheets here. It's more of a POC. Like if you can get it in Sheets and automate it and it works really well, you have flexibility to be able to figure out what your process is. After the Google Sheet phase, then it's now, okay, it's codified, the business is running around it. Now we bring it in system. So that's when we finally wrap up CPQ. That's actually one of the Google Sheet workflows that we're doing right now. It's going to be solved, but we already have the blueprint, how it works. So good stuff.
That's awesome. It's really interesting. I agree with bringing it back to simplicity, keeping it easy. That's one of the things that I've noticed recently is at New is that I was hired as our head of RevOps. And then my job turned into kind of everything that wasn't RevOps at the company. It's been wild, and I paid almost no attention for a year to the RevOps side. And while there are a lot of complaints, nothing's broken.
Technically, if Yugabyte wanted to, we could take 50% of our backlog, completely ignore it. The business would still run. It would be really painful. Some of those things are really annoying for a rep to have to deal with, or for our finance team to have to deal with, like really annoying. Hours of work. AI is helping with that. And we don't want to turn the podcast into an AI podcast as they all tend to, but I think it's really interesting. RevOps is important in the sense that we make people's lives easier. And then I think our impact is measured in the literal hours and time that we're saving. But saving time is a luxury. If you have to do it manually and you have to do it step by step and all manual, the business isn't going to stop doing that. It's just going to be someone's job to do that one little thing.
I remember this one story from Deal when they were growing really quickly. They had no real processes on the CPQ side and definitely nothing connecting into billing. They had 50 deal desk people.
That's how you fix that. You've got 10 people that are billing, 10 people that are deal review, 10 people that are that, and then you don't need automation because you've got industry experts or people who know the product really well, and they can just look at a deal and know what's wrong. That's a cost-effective way of wasting a lot of money, though. I love saying that. It really is. There's ways to burn cash. That's a really good way to do it, though. That's better than gasoline in a match. Really, you could buy a system and buy some tools and put together a process, and then that team can be freed up to do a bunch of other stuff.
It's the obligatory AI question, but when it comes to pricing and forecasting, what's been your approach, or the Yugabyte's approach, to leveraging AI and driving efficiencies, as James says, embracing simplicity?
As far as billing and things have gone, I think the biggest thing for us in using AI is we use AI for account open plans and a fair bit of precursor research. That gets us to use case and potential products that we can offer faster. So there's a case to where AI is really tough. We're being really careful about which ones and not training on our data, especially with us being a database company. We have an InfoSec team that is probably the most comprehensive InfoSec IT team I've ever worked with, period. These guys know their stuff. So anytime we bring in AI, that's first. These guys look at it and they scrutinize the training of the data and all this other stuff. Our team is really crazy with that. We use it for quick price comparisons with our competitors, trying to get AI to give us an answer on what some of our competitors are offering or what they would offer against a specific company we're prospecting into or that we're working against. A lot of this doesn't really drive anything major for the business. And I think that's just because AI being in its infancy and then also it being wrong a lot of the times, we use it to get the wheels spinning, like probably a lot of people do. I've seen a couple reps do is we're selling into a company. We now have a prompt that says, as our competitor with this use case, what would I offer? Then we stack rank that against what we would offer. Sometimes it gives something interesting. Other times it's, yeah, that's totally wildly off. It's fun. It's like video games for RevOps, honestly. It really feels that way. I feel like I'm playing a video game sometimes with the AI stuff in real life and getting paid for it.
It's one of those things where I love the open season aspect of AI, where it's, oh, we were talking yesterday about pre-call prep, and it was
The reason I give that reaction, because I'm just like pre-call prep. Now, if you have the prompt and you've got the answers and the questions, it's surprisingly very accurate. It's wild. I'm a little speechless with some of the stuff that I've seen recently.
I went on Lovable and I was just like, hey, I need a website where my reps can put in a website and it'll prep them for that company based on information publicly available.
You can use all these tools now to create those apps to do that for you, and you give it your data. You can, like, some vibe coded app that works as like a GTM tool, literal thing. I joke about this because we recently started, this is a fun one. We recently started prioritizing which target accounts, strong, heavy ABM model within the company. So we're directing which target accounts we want to target for the next fiscal year. We're slightly offset on fiscal. With what we put together and how we thought about it, I was saying some things like, hey, this could be a Yugabyte V2 offering, Yugabyte GTM. You get these proof of concepts with AI built, small stuff. Gemini's helping you with this, maybe ChatGPT is helping you with that, but you're functionally putting it all together. But then you start to like really unlock a lot of things very quickly. I have a feeling that some companies that get huge over the next 5-10 years are going to be from them just putting together workflows that they needed to solve a problem with using AI or something. And then they're like, wait, this is a really good idea. And they get real developers on it and they build it, and then it turns into something else. So
it's so fascinating. It's like with AI, and this is fed into pricing, this is fed into almost everything we're doing. I'm seeing a lot of people do this with forecasting as well. But it's like we used to have the big holdup for people becoming developers and building things, or that bones are hard to create. Architecture is hard. And AI can get you 70% of the way there, 80% of the way.
I remember in 2022 or 2023 when ChatGPT was hitting, it was going up on the roller coaster. I remember we used it specifically for Apex classes and Apex triggers. And the hardest part for a lot of our team was getting the trigger started. So it's like how to start the trigger. They had enough knowledge of reading code to be able to do the meat and potatoes of the actual trigger itself. But starting it was the hardest part because it is pretty specific. It's very developer heavy with brackets here and there and stuff. And I'm not a genius there, so it's fine. AI unlocks that basically. Then somebody who wants to be a developer who knows like 80% of how to do it is able to go in and get it to kick it off. And then they go forward and they write a real trigger that works. And then it helps you learn. So now you know what good looks like. And then now all of a sudden you know how to start things that you didn't know how to start before. So
that's been one of the more fun aspects of my job, is that I get to do things like that. One of the things we're doing right now is we're doing pricing analysis, product and pricing analysis for people through a pre-structured query in AI. In an hour, we can pull all CPQ data and tell you the complexity of it. And it's very cool. And
dare I say agent force? Dare I say agent force? That's what agent force wants to be.
New has an MCP coming soon. It's really cool. But thinking about going forward and how you're going to use, what are some of the things, this is turning into an AI podcast, isn't it? So thinking about how you're using AI, from thinking about that forecasting that you've moved into Google Sheets, thinking about the pricing and all of that stuff, how are you going to incorporate AI into that? And are you doing any of the kind of AI guided selling things or any of that stuff?
I don't know if you heard my dog. He's all very excited about this question. He's super excited. I actually have already done this in that Google Sheet. Gemini is actually the easiest AI tool to get approved because they've gone into it with an enterprise focus from the top. With the data inside of the sheet, Gemini, you can open it and then it'll actually start to ask you questions about the data that's on the sheet, how you want to interpret it. So It's really wild because, like I said, I use it mostly to kick off how we're thinking about the forecasting. And most of the time, what it provides is really food for thought for me, because our executive team and the people who really care about our forecast usually have individual things that they care about. And the things that I'm going to bring up or that were surfaced by Gemini are probably not even remotely on their radar, or do they even care about it? But I have been using this mostly as a thought exercise. It's if you feel like you're getting complacent or you feel like you don't really know where to go next with information or data, you can have any AI focused tool look at your data, and provided it's like a Gemini that's not going to train on it or whatever else, it's approved by your company or whatever, you can have it give you information. Like, what are you seeing here? What are the trends? What can you extrapolate from this? Just ask it questions like that holistically. And it does a really good job at just getting your brains working and spinning on how to actually think about some stuff. Where you used to go to Reddit to answer some of these questions, you can actually straight up get a jump start on it in a tool. And it's nice. It's fun. Made me better at my job, honestly. And worse in some ways, I think, with brain drain, obviously.
We were joking the other day that there's an AI rot effect.
Totally.
Nobody has to think anymore, and nobody has to learn anymore. When Google first came out, and all of a sudden we have access to all the information in the history of mankind. That's amazing.
There are probably people right now that are asking AI how to deal with their girlfriend. And I've done this accidentally, where I've just did as a joke with my fiance. Actually, my fiance is being mean to me. How can I make her not be being really silly? Because I showed it to her right after. I'm like, so you see what ChatGPT says about how you should treat me or something? I have a feeling that's going to happen. And I think we've already done that in some ways with our jobs. You ask AI a question because you have a fundamental need or a problem. You could learn to do that formula in Google Sheets yourself, or you could have AI help you create it. I've tried to do it myself first every single time. And I've found that while I do get to the correct answer a good portion of the time, if I had just used the tools available to me, I would have gotten to the correct answer in literally 5% of the time. And knowing what good looks like is going to be the skill that is hard to measure and required for a lot of these, especially like RevOps roles and anything related to operations. That's going to be what separates people from good and bad. It's literally, can you know the difference between good and bad? You know what good looks like.
I think 100%. And it goes for pricing, goes for forecasting, goes for RevOps, goes for life. It's 100% fact. I'm thinking about this. I had a funny thing where it's, what's the weirdest, this is completely off topic. Everybody has a weird thing they do with GPT. What is yours that would be appropriate for our audience?
I'll preface this by saying everything I do is appropriate for every audience because I'm the most wholesome human on the planet. I have never said a bad thing ever in my life. So with that being said, I'll give you an example. This is crazy. I actually haven't told anybody this before. I have used ChatGPT to inform almost every buying decision that I have made in the last 6 months. I mean, seriously, the chair I'm sitting on, the gifts I got some people, I asked it, what would my Christmas gift list look like based on what you know about me? And it has memories. It picked it up, and this list is amazing. It was crazy. The new luggage I bought, because I've been traveling a lot lately and going to San Jose and going to Sunnyvale a lot, and then just going around like the US a lot lately. I need new luggage. So I was like, give me the best luggage for what I need. And it gives me this really good recommendation. That is probably what I use AI for in my personal life the most. And it put me onto products and brands that I never would have known existed. And then I'm like, I have never heard this brand before. It's like a brand out of Korea that does really good skincare, right? Skincare for my face and stuff. I've never heard of them before, but then I order it. It takes 6 weeks to get here, but then I get it. And I'm like, this is the best thing I've ever used in my life. I would have never known this existed if I didn't just ask the question. So that is how I've used AI the most. That is how I also do it for enterprise procurement and evaluations. This is the thing that people have talked about. They're trying to figure out how can they get their product in or their business in as a recommendation when you ask, what's the best CPQ tool for my business of 100 employees or 500 employees. You want it to say new every time. How do you do that? And I think that's the next wave of SEO, basically. It's not going to be SEO because you can't really pay for that, but getting out there so that AI reads your business as a solution for the thing is going to be it. That's what I've done, man. Everything.
That makes a lot of sense. I'm going to start doing that because that sounds like really good practice. One time I was feeling frisky and I was bored, and it was like 7 p.m. at night. And so I just went into GPT and I said, give me the juice. And it was like, what do you mean by the juice? The juice, give me the juice. And I kept drilling into it for a while. And it put out a report about all the things that were going on in the world that day in RevOps and like all of the things. And then I eventually just said, all right, send me this every day. And so
I just asked it that question. Give me the juice is unironically a very good recap to your recent chat GP. Holy crap. This is actually crazy.
It's great.
If anybody ever asks me, what's your number one 4-word prompt? It's give me the juice.
Matt, I'll add your recommendation for Korean skin creams to the show notes. There'll probably be as much interest in that as any other thing that we've talked about today.
I can give you the one that I recently bought. There's two. There's a body wash. It's like a tangerine exfoliating body wash. I smell amazing every single time I leave the shower. I have eczema and really rough skin, and there are a lotion, an exfoliator, and a couple other things that I'll give you like the best options. So when you put it in the description, you have it. It's amazing.
If this show gets wide distribution, I'm sure you'll become an influencer for the Korean skincare company, and it'll be a win-win all around. One final question, getting back to RevOps is a bit of a loaded one. What's the pricing hill that you'll die on that others might disagree with? Is there something that you believe in that is controversial, or you just wave the flag enthusiastically?
I've got one. And maybe it's not super controversial, but I feel very strongly about it. I think that if you have more than a handful of products, you are probably thinking way too hard about what you offer. So if you've got a pretty straightforward product offering, and then you've got 30 SKUs or 50 SKUs or whatever the case is, there's a probability that you could think critically about those SKUs, and a lot of them are the same, and it's really just an adjustment to a line item. I'd say that's probably a hot take, but not so much. It's probably wrong in a lot of cases too, but I really feel strongly about it. If you've got a huge book of SKUs, let's really think about it. How are we overcomplicating this by region, by this, by that? It's all really just one product, and then we need to do something with the line item to adjust it, not 10 SKUs. We're a little guilty of that. I think we have maybe 10 or 15, and we're bringing that down to 4 or 5 because it's fundamentally the same stuff, just different slices of it. With us not having a really great CPQ tool and system, we have to split it up that way. But that's going to be the benefit of having CPQ. It's okay, great. It's this product A, and then it's the 4 versions or 5 versions of how we typically sell it. That's basically my thing. I think large SKUs, unless you're a grocery store, are probably unnecessary. You can probably cut those down a lot.
But if you are a grocery store, let's talk.
If you're a grocery store, give me all your money too. Every single time I get a chance to say, give me all your money, I'm going to say it because hopefully someone takes me up on that offer soon.
Matt, this has been awesome. That's a wrap for this episode of The Lift. Huge thanks to Matt for his insight on what it takes to price and package products in this crazy world that we live in. Make sure to follow the show, leave us a quick rating or review, and share this episode with fellow RevOps or GTM leaders. Until next time.